Welcome everyone to our webinar, Escaping VMware, Risk-Free Migration with vJailbreak. Today we'll be talking about VMware migration, and we'll be doing a live demo of a running VM being migrated from vCenter to Private Cloud Director using vJailbreak. For those who are attending, we have people here to answer your questions, so please feel free to ask your questions in the chat. We'll be answering them as we go, and we will be having a question and answer session at the end if time allows. So don't be shy, get your questions in as we're going along. And with no further ado, let me turn it over to our hosts for today, Damian Karlson and Dave Gilinsky.
And here we are, folks, in the handsome flesh.
Thanks, John. Dave, why don't you go ahead and go first and introduce yourself?
Okay, I run all of the post-sales customer-facing people here at Platform 9. So when you become a customer, if you're not already a customer, your satisfaction and delight is my responsibility.
Wow. I think that even says that on your business card, if memory serves. So,
I exist to assist.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Damian Karlson. Hi, everyone. I run technical product marketing here at Platform 9. And if you've ever been out to our subreddit, which is /r/Platform9, I am also one of the moderators out there. So thank you very much for joining us today. We've got a really great attendance here, really strong audience. And so I'm excited to show you all what vJailbreak is, the problems that it solves, and how it can remove the stress in your daily IT life. First off, who is Platform 9? This is always a good question to ask and have answered. We are a company that's been around since 2013. Our three founders were all former VMware engineers that worked on the vCloud-Director project, as well as a few other things. We have over 1 million CPU cores in production. Our combined VMware experience is over 100 years within the company. Myself, I was a VMware production administrator. I did VMware professional services. I worked for VMware, so I too have been in and around the VMware scene for a long time. I know that Dave did as well. We have experience where we're actively migrating a customer, a Fortune 150 customer that is moving 40,000 VMs off of VMware over to Private Cloud Director. And our largest customer is running over 24,000 hypervisors in production. So we have a lot of experience with delivering virtualization built on an open stack at scale. So I'm going to throw it to Dave. What Dave's going to do next is he is going to kick off a migration of a VM, and then we'll kind of come back to the PowerPoint slide and walk through some things while the migration is running. So Dave?
Yep, that's exactly. Yep. Thank you, Damian. So I'm about to click in the window to make sure that I can switch screens here, which may mean that you get a sneak preview of the slide that we're going to show after the vJailbreak demo, and so you can thank me later for that sneak preview. Yep, there it is, and boom! If you didn't catch it, you missed it. What we're looking at here is the vJailbreak user interface. vJailbreak is a VM that runs under Private Cloud Director. That connects to vCenter, which I will show you over here, right? Very familiar looking vCenter, vSphere interface, and allows you to, in just a few clicks, begin a migration and a format conversion from VMware to Private Cloud Director. And I'm going to show you what that looks like here. So we have the ability to select the vCenter and cluster. That is our source. We have the ability to select the Private Cloud Director cluster as our destination. And then you'll see here that when I selected those two things, the list of VMs that are running under my vCenter has been populated. I conveniently named them so that I can search for jail and just pick the ones I want. And I'm going to do that here. I've got a Windows 10 demo VM that's a relatively small disk, so the entire conversion and transfer will take about 15 minutes. And we're going to obviously walk through other stuff while that's happening so that you're not watching the clock tick for 15 minutes. So we selected the VM. We then select the source network, which is the the virtual network under vCenter. We select the destination network, which is the virtual network under Private Cloud Director. We select the source storage, which is the NFS data store that I have mapped in vCenter. The destination data store, same thing under Private Cloud Director. It's an NFS mounted storage device. And then we click on Start Migration. And what will happen here is that the view switches to a job queue, and the job of this migration is now listed. It's listed as pending because there's some initial validation that has to go on before it actually begins the data transfer from ESXi to Private Cloud Director. Just a quick word on how that works. What's happening in the background is that we're using VMware's VDDK, the Virtual Disk Development Kit, in order to interface and copy the blocks from VMware to Private Cloud Director by mounting the volume under vJailbreak. So now you see that it has started, the time has started ticking up, and I will take us back to the slide presentation, already on the next slide, as you saw, and hand it back to Damian.
Thank you.
I just want to interject one thing here, Damian. I'm sorry. For those of you who are asking, we will be sending out the recording to every attendee and everyone who registered afterwards. Sorry, Damian.
Thank you, John. Oh, it's quite all right. So I built this slide, and what I really wanted to communicate here is I feel like we really understand it, like at a core level, the world that our potential customers are living in, right? Many folks feel like they're being forced to buy products that they aren't going to use at massive price increases, or they're forced to use a subscription bundle. They've got increasing complexity that they would have to deal with should they decide to use those things. And that's even if VMware, or Broadcom rather, hasn't fired you as a customer, right? We talk to customers who have to make a near immediate decision in IT terms to basically get a body transplant. And it's really, really crazy times. I feel a lot of personal feelings about it, about what Broadcom has done, and just from a business perspective, it's overwhelming, and we know that not everyone knows what to do next. And so that is my hope, that vJailbreak kind of helps answer those questions as far as how do I move away from this painful situation. You want to jump to the next slide, please, Dave?
Oh, I totally forgot that I was in charge of the the slide deck.
Okay.
I was
okay.
I was enjoying you talking and thought I was just here to listen. Nope, I have to click.
That's the joys of remotely driving a deck.
Yeah. And now I've gone too far. There we go. Okay.
All right. So first off, workload migrations aren't easy. I've been in IT for a number of years. I remember the days of doing the physical to virtual conversions. Also, a lot of virtual to virtual conversions that people were doing, virtual data center consolidation, et cetera. But if you're moving from one virtualization platform to another, you have to think about, how am I going to convert that underlying VM disk? What am I going to do with any of the virtualization platform guest agents, such as VMware tools? What am I going to do with my networking and storage, right? Like, I've got VMs with MAC addresses, with IP addresses, with personalities on the network that need to be moved in a non-disruptive manner. And what do I do with my complex VMs? If I have a multi-tier application, or maybe even something that uses a physical RDM, how would I move that in any sort of sane way? And how do I do this in a way that does not present risk to my company within change windows, which typically means overnight, on a weekend, or some other not great 8 to 5 while the sunshine is out time, right? And that's a lot. That's a lot to think about, and it is a lot to plan. And we believe that vJailbreak helps make that much, much easier. You want to go to the next slide, please, Dave?
Thank you for prompting me.
Yep. How are we doing on time, John?
We have 21 minutes left to the very end.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
Doing
yeah,
fine.
cool. So we know that migrating production demands a successful migration, right? When we were planning this, we were thinking about uh, how vJailbreak should make your migration a non-event, right? Like it should be just another day. It should be just another cutover. If you ever experienced a high availability event within a VMware environment, and you just saw VMs powering back on and getting back on the network, that and everything worked, right? That's what your migration should be like. So some of the non-negotiables that you would have when you're planning your migration is first your workload data integrity. Your migrated VMs should look, once they come out the other side of the migration factory, they should look like how they did when they went in, except for disk format changes, drivers being removed, etc. Should you convert a VM and then find that, hey, our application didn't come up right, how do we back this out? You should be able to do a non-destructive or a reversible, like a way to back out of that failure. And we believe that vJailbreak provides that. And thirdly, you also need to have planned outage windows. Not only planned windows for when you're doing data copies, especially if you're moving a lot of VMs across a network or a storage backend during work hours or during specific after hour times, but also planning when that source VM is powered off and when that target VM is powered back on. So those are the non-negotiables, right? These are the things that you have to know that you can provide in order to remove the risk involved with migrating your virtual machines. As I said, we believe that vJailbreak eliminates risk. It does that in a variety of different ways. We preserve your MAC addresses and your IP addresses. We validate your networks before they move. So we can look at the port group in vCenter and map that to a destination network within Private-Cloud-Director, and then say, hey, these match up. You're going to be putting an IP address in a range from the source, and it's going to the same destination range. Your source data remains unchanged. All vJailbreak does is it makes a snapshot of a VM, and then it copies that snapshot and changes the disk format and makes the necessary changes in order to remove any guest agents. And you can automate a retry. You can have that cutover period be something that an administrator would trigger on their own. So it would take a positive action from an administrator to do that. And again, as I said, if you discover that your destination VM is not acting the way that you thought it should, you can just power off the destination and power on the source, and there is zero damage to the source VM. One of the other things that we've seen a lot with migrations at scale is a lack of visibility. vJailbreak provides real-time Grafana dashboards. You've got phase-by-phase tracking. We've got built-in validation checks. Within the vJailbreak user interface, you can even do a live tail of both the migration controller and specific migration jobs to see what they're doing as they're doing it. And when it comes to data integrity, we use change block tracking, right? We use the vSphere virtual disk kit, the VDDK from VMware, to make sure that any blocks that might have changed get copied over before that source VM is powered off. And again, after that's powered off, just to make sure that the source and the copy are the same. We have a storage accelerated copy in beta, which means that we can talk directly to backend storage arrays, and the storage itself can handle that copy and not have to traverse a storage network. We've got pre-flight validation and even post-flight validation that can be built into your migrations. So I believe that at every step of a migration, vJailbreak is designed to help eliminate all risk. How's that migration doing, Dave?
You know what? I happen to have it up in another window because that's how I roll, so I can see how it's doing. But you know what? Why don't we take this opportunity to show folks some of the visibility characteristics that you were just describing? So we can see here that our progress indicator that we shows that we've been going for 10 minutes. We're on step 6 of 9, and we're able to look at the logs as the migration is underway. And if I look back here, I can see where the data copy finished, and then exactly what step the migration is executing at the moment. All of which makes the whole thing really predictable, right? Like once you understand exactly what steps are involved in doing the migration, you can monitor the progress and you can get a really good idea of where exactly you are, which allows you to plan this stuff for your users in a very predictable way. So I estimate that we have about 6 minutes left before the migration is over.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So this is kind of a visual diagram of the vJailbreak process. On the left, we've got a VMware vSphere environment with clusters defined. On the right, we have Private-Cloud-Director, which is our product by Platform 9 with clusters defined. vJailbreak sits in the middle, and vJailbreak manages the storage replication, the changing of the VM tools, the updating drivers, etc. vJailbreak manages all of that work for you, and it does that in a way that gives you easy rollback and thorough visibility. So it is a non-disruptive migration from VMware. I do want to be clear when I say non-disruptive, I mean it is not a event. It's not an incident. You will be able to migrate problem-free. It is going to power off a source VM and then do the necessary copy and then power on that destination VM. So it is something that would need to be scheduled within a change window. But in a few minutes, when Dave gets back into the product, he'll show you all the scheduling capabilities that we have built into vJailbreak.
Would you like me to do that now?
Yeah, sure. Why
All
don't
right.
you? Yeah.
Great. Let me switch back here. I'm going to have to click in the window, which means you get a preview of the next slide. Oh, demo. All right. Okay. What Damian was just talking about, the ability to select when you cut over from the original VM running under VMware to the destination VM running under Private-Cloud-Director, is highly customizable, and that is the result of our having developed this tool with in conjunction with some of our largest customers. I think Damian mentioned one of them, like a Fortune 50 customer with tens of thousands of VMs that are being used by work groups around the world, operating 24 hours a day in different shifts. And what that means is that they need to be able to schedule exactly when a data copy gets started, right? To minimize the impact on storage, to minimize the impact on networks, and exactly when the cutover happens between the live VM currently running under VMware and the destination VM running under Private-Cloud-Director. So, you know, what that means is, in practical terms, if I have a group that's operating in applications that is running at a particular time, and they need to have, you know, continuous access to those applications during their workday, we can schedule the data copy to happen after their workday, and then we can schedule the cutover to happen at any time in the future that we want. In the meantime, we're going to use change block tracking under VMware, just like Damian was just saying, to make sure that our data copy on the destination is continuously updated with the data that is being changed on VMware when users, you know, read and write and access and all that sort of stuff. So that at the moment that we want to have our users like pull their hands away from the keyboard, allow us to do the cutover, and then put their hands back on the keyboard, that last little bit of data transfer is just copying the last few minutes of whatever was happening on that original VM, thereby minimizing the amount of time that it takes to cut over from the running application on VMware and the running application on Private Cloud Director. So what I have here in front of me, data copy method allows you to choose whether we're going to power off the VM, then copy, or whether we want to copy live VMs and choose the cutover time to be whatever we want. And if I select cutover options, we can have the cutover happen immediately. We can have a little button that you have to press, or we can select a date and time where we do that final cutover. Here, you can select when you want to start copying the data, right? So almost everybody has busy times and not busy times for network and storage. We can select those periods of time to make sure that we're not impacting, the live workloads that you have going on at the moment in your production environment, and also so that we can maximize the throughput of data copy. And like Damian showed on one of the previous slides, I think it was the last slide, we've worked really hard to make this a non-destructive event. So you have the option of doing several things with the VM that, as it existed under VMware. We can put that VM in just a shut off state, exactly where it is. If you're worried about users accessing vSphere and spinning it back up again, which, yes, it happens, right? Like if you have users that have self-serve access, they will just log in and spin things back up. So we can rename them, with like a hyphen do not power on. We can move them to a folder that you can create here in VMware. So, like migrated VMs, we can do that. We can disconnect the source network so that even if somebody does log in, go to the folder and power on the VM, it's not going to end up connecting to the network, and thereby having a duplicate IP and possibly bringing down both VMs. And then we have other options that are not related to the copy and the cutover schedule, but to the various features that we have about selecting IP addresses via DHCP, using hot plug flavors that allow you to scale up RAM and CPU as you need to, or pass through GPUs.
Okay. So there's a question from the audience here, Dave.
Ooh, all right.
The question is, can multiple VMs be migrated at one time?
Yes, they certainly can. Not only can multiple VMs be migrated at the same time, but there are many answers to that question. So we can migrate in batches from the user interface. We can cut over an entire ESXi host, including the PXE boot of the host and the installation of the Platform 9 operating system and the installation of the Platform 9 hypervisor components, and then the automatic migration of the VMs that used to reside on that ESXi host to the now Platform 9 host. And everything that you see here in the user interface is developed in API first. So if you're using Ansible, for example, you can orchestrate all of the activities in vJailbreak via your orchestration scripts.
Got it. Okay. And what about, follow-on question. What about applications that span multiple VMs, like a SQL database, for example?
Yeah. So generally what we do is we do when you're engaged in a big migration project, we have a data discovery session where we map the dependencies between VMs and applications. So if you have something, where you've got 4 VMs that all need to end up being powered up simultaneously under Private Cloud Director in order to maintain the integrity of some application, right? Like a SQL server, an Exchange server, Oracle, some giant telecommunication application. We do that in such a way that we batch those VMs so that those dependencies remain intact.
Okay.
Oh, and look, perfect timing. We have a successful migration.
Awesome.
Speaking of timing, we got like 5 minutes left. So
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go back to the slideshow, and lo and behold, we're in demo section of the slideshow. We've already demoed a lot, so maybe
Yeah.
we just talk about stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that the point of this webinar was not necessarily to talk about Private Cloud Director. That can always be a follow-on webinar. The point of this webinar was, how do we leave VMware and how do we do that safely? We believe one of those answers is with vJailbreak, you can leave VMware and you can go to Private Cloud Director. So Private Cloud Director is built on an open source base. Many kind of best of breed components such as Prometheus, Grafana, OpenStack, KVM for your underlying hypervisor, QCOW2 for your open VM disk format. And Private Cloud Director brings all the enterprise features that you demand, such as high availability, live migration, multi-tenancy, single sign-on, self-service, etc. It integrates with all of your existing servers and storage. So you do not need to go buy hyperconverged. You do not need to go buy a new storage array. You do not need to go buy any new racks or blades or anything else. You can use what you have right now within your data center. And we offer a familiar management experience. And by that, I mean that our user interface is very cleanly laid out for those that want to administer their environment through the web. We're also kind of a REST API first product. So everything that you do within the user interface, you can also replicate via the REST API or via the command line. And as Dave alluded to, we offer the only in-place cluster conversion available. That's kind of a separate topic. I kind of wanted to focus only on kind of the VM migration challenge to be overcome. But yes, vJailbreak does offer that as well. And then on the next slide, you can see that Private Cloud Director is not just a hypervisor. We also are a part of the overall ecosystem that your company already works in. We offer backup with Rubrik, with Veritas, with Commvault. We have Veeam backup in beta currently. We work with all of your existing servers and storage and networking. We work with Omnisa's Horizon Cloud if you would like to stay with Omnisa for your VDI, but you need to find a new hypervisor. Private Cloud Director can help answer that question. And then we also integrate with all of your existing observability and automation tools. And we're able to do this because of our open source kind of heritage. And yeah, that's Private Cloud Director from Platform 9. And then Dave, did you want to show any more of the vJailbreak UI
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, I people are going to suspect that this was clever editing, but I promise it totally isn't. This is entirely unedited. But what I wanted to show, and I just completely forgot. I wanted to show what happened to the VM running under vCenter, and I wanted to specifically highlight that it is now powered off under vCenter. So this VM is in a state exactly as you left it, right? It's just powered off. The VMDK is still there, and we could just power it right back up after we shut it down under Private Cloud Director. And under Private Cloud Director, we can see, if I refresh the list of VMs here, that lo and behold, there it is, right? It's the same VM with the same IP address and the same MAC address, and it is active. It's up. It's ready to run applications on the network. So
That's awesome.
yes, I should have done that right away, and we should have a clock running all the time so that people can see that we didn't cleverly edit this.
Yeah. Yeah. I can do a lot of clever things. Clever editing is not it, but yeah. I actually really like the MAC and IP address preservation. That to me was the one thing, and probably the first thing that I asked was, what about the MAC address? Because if you change the MAC, there's all sorts of other downstream potential issues. And so that that kind of network identity is super critical.
Right. We have so many customers that have applications that are node locked, like Oracle, for example, right?
Mhm.
And their license is tied to a MAC address. So our ability to maintain the MAC address means that there's no extra interface to a third party that has to happen in order to spin that VM up on the other side and have the application work. Which actually makes me think of an advantage that we tried to build into this vJailbreak tool right from the very beginning, which is to minimize your dependence on third parties in order to get the migration accomplished. So when we talked about a minute ago, the ability to convert a complete ESXi host in place from VMware to Private Cloud Director, that means that if you have the extra compute to migrate VMs off of a host under VMware temporarily while we convert the host, you don't have to go buy more stuff. And not buying more stuff means that you're not waiting for delivery for the servers. You're not waiting for somebody to rack and stack and network all of that new hardware before you begin the migration, which gives you greater control over the scheduling of your migration than if you had to go buy stuff and wait for all the logistics of stuff set up to happen. So these are the kinds of things that extend big migration projects by weeks sometime, waiting for logistics to be.
Yeah, absolutely. John,
Okay.
are there any?
We're basically out of time. We're actually a little over time.
Oh, okay.
So I apologize, but I appreciate everyone hanging out. What we will do is we can, sooner or later, security is going to come throw us off, but we can hang out here and answer questions in text for as long as we possibly can. We'll summarize the questions and send them out. We are going to send you out the recording. Everybody who registers is going to get the recording and a free gift with purchase. So thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
Hey,
Thanks, guys.
Dave, do you mind if I land the plane with just that one next slide? Sorry.
I would love it if you do that.
This is my tech marketing. So I just wanted to wrap it all up in a bow, right? vJailbreak does all app architectures. You can use your existing hardware. You don't have to refactor your apps. You don't have to move from cloud to cloud, right? It's just from VMware to Private Cloud Director. And you can migrate very inexpensively. We estimate about $30 to $60 per VM. That really depends on a lot of other things, but it doesn't have to be an event, and it doesn't have to keep you up at night. So,
and just for clarity, that's not us. That was actually a very large analyst firm that estimated that, I believe.
Yes.
Not naming any names, but we didn't make it up.
Yeah. So thank you all for coming. Thank you very much, Dave. And thank you, John. As John said, we're going to hang out in the chat and try to answer any questions. So thank you.